Must be a big night. We're blessed with Michael Wilbon joining us here on SportsCenter. Mike, we know that the play-in tournament starts tonight. Lakers, T-Wolves in this late game. The odds makers really like the Lakers in this one. I think Rudy Gobert has something to do with that. But what do you give LA's chances of making a legitimate run this postseason?
You know what? I think the Lakers have as good a chance as anybody in the West. And I know that doesn't narrow it down because I'd say there are at least 6 teams in the West that I could make an argument for if I was doing some lawyerly sort of presentation and representing my client to the best of my abilities. I could pick any one of them and say, oh, yeah, I got the Clippers can win, the Lakers can win, the Suns can win, the Warriors can win. I mean, Memphis, the Lakers are going to get Memphis in the first full round, the real round of the playoffs. And Memphis is missing 2 of its most important bigs at a time when you got to play against Anthony Davis rolling. So I think that the Lakers would have an advantage that we wouldn't normally think of, even against Memphis in a 4 out of 7 series. So, wow, I think things are setting up, starting with a shorthanded Minnesota team that could implode at any moment for the Los Angeles Lakers, LeBron, and AD.
Yeah, even this Lakers team making a lot of comparisons to that 2020 Lakers team that didn't start out great but ended up winning in that pandemic, the bubble year. You mentioned teams in the West. I don't know if the Pelicans are one of those teams that you think have a real shot. They're in the play-in tournament. They'll face the Thunder tomorrow. And, Mike, we heard from Zion. He talked to reporters today. He says he feels good physically, but that he's waiting until he, quote, feels like Zion again. And I know you've covered a lot of athletes over the years, and I'd love to hear your perspective on how you would describe Zion's career to this point.
You know what, El? It's like when you're watching him play, it's like looking at a horror movie and you've got your fingers in front of your eyes because you don't want to see what could befall him next. And I feel bad. I mean, you think about there are other great prospects. Greg Oden, just to pick one of a recent vintage. Greg Oden never got to show us because of injuries, we think, what he could be. And the Zion has shown us more than that. He's shown us more than Oden, but he's not out there enough. And then you see the footage of him like last week, and you're like, wow, is he 20 pounds heavier than he needs to be when he does come back? And you just hope you can see. The promise is so incredible. A guy who can shoot better than 60% from the floor and average 25 points and be a secondary playmaker and just bring excitement to the arena. I mean, Zion is a guy that any franchise would want, except you don't know if you can keep him out there. So, wow, New Orleans with him is one thing. Without him, maybe a threat, because Brandon Ingram is a tremendous player. But if you had both of them healthy at once, and C.J. McCollum, you start thinking, wow, what's the limit for them? But Zion becomes you're still wait and see, and I don't know what it means, wait until he feels like Zion. That's a little scary if I was a fan of that franchise or working for that franchise, waiting to figure that out.
It's so funny that you mentioned Brandon. When I think of like someone who felt like we were robbed of being able to witness his talent because of injury, it's Brandon Roy, right? By the way, out of the 316 games that the Pelicans have had since they drafted Zion, he's only appeared in 114 of them across 4 NBA seasons. That's almost a third. Looking beyond the play-in tournament, Mike, there are 3 teams that Vegas really likes. They have them separated as the favorites to win the finals: Milwaukee, Boston, Phoenix. Of those teams, who do you think has the best chance to raise that Larry O'Brien?
Ooh. Of those teams, I mean, Milwaukee's been there and done that, and they beat Phoenix to get there and do that. So, I mean, I'd probably list them right now. I'd probably go Milwaukee and then the Suns. And there's still so much, El, as you know, that we don't know about the Suns. I know they're 8 or 9-0 with Kevin Durant on the floor, but that's not a huge sample size, and there's still a lot we have to know about their depth, about whether they've got enough size, particularly if Ayton is in some sort of jeopardy with foul trouble. There's a lot we don't know about the Suns, even though they look prolific, and even though we want to know what the ceiling is for them. I know as I sit here in the desert, not too far from that arena and where that team is headquartered, I can't wait to see what the Suns look like with Chris Paul and Devin Booker and Durant particularly. But Milwaukee, it's hard to go against them with Drew Holiday on the floor. He's probably the most overlooked player in the voting for all these awards, and first team and second team and third team. Let's see how highly he finishes, in that. And, of course, Giannis, he's done it already. And then if I go outside that threesome, it's interesting. Vegas not in love with Golden State. And there's obvious reasons they're not. They're going to have to win a game on the road, which they struggled to do all season. They're going to have Andrew Wiggins, I think most of us believe, in that lineup as productive as he was last year to win this year. And we don't know that because he hasn't played in so long. There's so many great storylines. And I guess it could start with those favorites you just mentioned.
So many great storylines that we look forward to hearing Mike Wilbon talk about. NBA Countdown tomorrow, right after this show. Michael Wilbon joining us here on SportsCenter. Thank you, sir. T-Wolves, these two faced off 3 times in the regular season, with Minnesota taking 2 of 3. The Lakers did, though, take the only meeting in which both LeBron and AD played. That's important. As for recent play, there's no team in the West that's hotter than LA. They've gone 16-7 since the All-Star break, the best record in the West over that span. On the other side, drama. Minnesota will be without Rudy Gobert tonight as he serves his 1-game suspension for this right here. Punching teammate Kyle Anderson. Yep. T-Wolves went 8-4, you'll need to know, without Gobert during the regular season. Here's Anderson earlier today. It's new on SportsCenter.
We grown men, we able to put it behind us, and we both want to win. And we spoke about it that night, and just seeing how everything's playing out is kind of lame, honestly. Like, we're teammates at the end of the day. I don't want it to be like a Kyle versus Rudy thing. That's never the case. I always got my teammates back, and we moved on.
Rudy and Kyle have never had a bad relationship, never had bad blood. I'm not worried about that. Like I never was. Just trying to figure out how we continue to move forward and stay together in a situation that a lot of people want us to splinter and trying to find ways to make us splinter and for us to hold it together, for us to win that game in general was amazing. Just to say the least.
There you go, heat of the moment type of thing. NBA reporter Dave McMenamin joining us live from inside Crypto.com Arena to get ready for tonight's game. Dave, what's the Lakers' biggest concern playing the T-Wolves?
Well, Anthony Davis told me when I asked about the absences of Rudy Gobert and Jaden McDaniels that he actually views the Wolves as more dangerous offensively now with the players that are going to be getting time in their absence. You're talking about Kyle Anderson, we just heard from, back in his college town where he played at UCLA. Certainly someone with more of an offensive skill set than those two players. Also, Taurean Prince getting time off the bench, another guy who can get up and down the court. So Davis's point was we need to focus on ourselves defensively. The Lakers had some slippage late in the season. Lakers coach Darvin Ham told me we need to focus on corralling Mike Conley at the point of attack, stop him throughout the entire possession. If the Wolves get up a shot and miss it, we got a defensive rebound. Because if you allow guys like Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns to get extra possessions, they can find an offensive rhythm. And as LeBron James said over the weekend, both those guys can drop 40 on you if you're not careful.
Yeah, and again, for the folks that didn't hear me as I sort of just said it really out of the side of my mouth, 8-4 are those T-Wolves without Rudy Gobert. Maybe a case of addition by subtraction. Dave, thanks. For more on tonight's other game, we get it over to Jay.
Yeah, Elle, in the Eastern Conference, the Heat and Hawks face off in the 7-8 game, which will be a rematch of the Eastern Conference first round from a year ago, a series the Heat took in 5 games.
We remember.
Okay, as for this season, though, Atlanta and Miami faced off 4 times during the regular season with the Heat taking 3 of 4.
Right.
It's not going well for you, is it? All 4 of those games decided by 8 or fewer points. Trae Young struggling in his career against the Heat, including the playoffs, averaging 5.5 turnovers a game. His second